This is Amazing Grace, and Jesus, I sing for all that you have done for me. Good evening, I'm Pastor Sherry, the senior pastor here at Victory Worship Center, and also the host of Amazing Grace. And we have been waiting for this night for many weeks because my special guest, I'm so excited. I always tell you I'm excited, but I'm exceptionally excited because I can't wait because we're going to believe for a miracle tonight. My guests tonight are the Schwartz family. I have Nyla, Mark, Naomi, and Kelly. And so we welcome you to Amazing Grace, and I'm so grateful that you said yes. So are you glad to be here tonight?
Yes.
Of course you are, Nyla. Nyla's not the shy one, okay? In this family, Nyla's the one who likes to be on the stage, right? Okay. Well, we have a lot to talk about tonight. As you know, we've been talking about Naomi and the situation that she's going through. But when the situation that Naomi's going through is not just about Naomi. It's about the whole family and how when you receive news, how your life can change in a moment. You know, we have a quote every week on Amazing Grace, and I really saved this one when I knew you guys were going to be on here. Thank you, Kathy. She always sends me the quotes. Bob Marley said this: "You never know how strong you are until being strong is your choice." So I'll say it again, you never know how strong you are until being strong is your choice. What I would say is it's your only choice, all right? Sometimes we're put in situations we never dreamed. We hear about it with other people, what we never dreamed they would enter our family, amen? So you know what I'm talking about? Okay, so I want to get right into the show tonight because I have 4 people I want to talk to and how the news has affected each and every one of them in the family. They are facing some devastating situations at this time that has affected the whole family. And so I want to get started how this all came about, how the news came about. So Kelly, I'm going to be talking a lot to you right now as the mom. And Kelly is, I always said, she's one of the brightest medical people I know. She's not a doctor, but I always feel like she is a doctor. Okay, no matter what I ask, if you talk to Kelly, she has the answer. She's been in the medical field how long?
Over 20 years.
Over 20 years. And I met Kelly when she was only about 14 or 15 years old, so about your age, Naomi. And she came to Victory, and I remember the day you got saved, as if it was yesterday. You were just down that aisle right over there. You got saved. It was an incredible day. And so I've been through a lot with Kelly in her lifetime, and you've gone through a lot in your lifetime, and you've always risen above the situation. So I know I'm going to get you started. I know that you went for a checkup for Nyla at school, right?
Right.
And so take it from there and tell us what happened.
So we went to a regular school physical checkup. Naomi hadn't been feeling well for several weeks before, so we figured Nyla was not doing very well virtually. So we determined that it would be best for her to go back to school, brick and mortar. We scheduled the appointment for January 22nd. We went into the doctor's office. We brought Naomi as well since she wasn't feeling well, just to make sure that everything was okay. Nyla got her annual visit done. Everything checked out well. We move on to Naomi's visit, and we addressed the concerns that we had, asked if we could have some lab work done. After speaking about a couple things that we were concerned about, they gave us requisitions to go get some lab work done, and the pediatrician kind of took a step back and asked Naomi a couple questions, and then asked me, has she always been this pale? And I mean, everybody knows Naomi's always been the fairer one in the family. She's always been fair-skinned, but I mentioned, not this type of fair. This type of fair is a little bit different, which is why we brought her in today. And so she said, I'm not really comfortable sending you guys home right now. Why don't I do the blood work in the office so that you don't have to take another day off of work? And we'll determine if she needs to see another physician like an endocrinologist sooner. I will call them and make that appointment so you don't have to wait so long. And I'm like, that'd be great. Taking time off of work would be crazy. So she decides to do them both, Nyla and Naomi. They do a little finger prick in the office. And not even 10 minutes later, she came into the exam room and said, "You have to take Naomi into the emergency room right now. You can't wait. Like, you have to go right now." Her hemoglobin was 7.2. Her platelets were 23.
26.
Normal hemoglobin is, pretty high, so that was really alarming. And so, we left, took Naomi or Nyla right home, called Mark and said, "Listen, doctor," her pediatrician said we need to take her to the emergency room. Her labs are off. and I need you to come home right away. And so he came home really quickly, hadn't even been, I don't even think, an hour from the time that we left the doctor's office, took Nyla home, Mark got home, and then by the time we got to the hospital, they triaged Naomi very, very quickly, amazing staff, get into the pediatric emergency room, and they take Naomi's temperature, and from the pediatrician's office to the hospital, she started to run a fever, and they redrew all her labs, and her hemoglobin and platelets had dropped both to 3, which are not even, I mean, she shouldn't have been awake, she shouldn't have been conscious. You know, it would have been a pretty grim morning on that Saturday had we not taken her to the doctor. And then, you know, things just kind of escalated from there.
Okay, Mark, when you got this news about your daughter, I know she's like a daddy's girl, I've heard. And when you heard this news that your daughter was being rushed to the hospital, what was your initial feelings or fears at that moment?
I really didn't know what to think. It's something that, you know, we never dealt with before this serious. We've always had, you know, a few issues with her, but she's always all right. This has always been the healthy one. So, all kinds of every feeling you could think of as a parent, as a father, and, you know, some that you never wish you would have, and some feelings you never wish that you would know. It was pretty much chaos in my brain, you know, on the drive home, and then getting in there, seeing her, you know, like when I saw her, I wanted to cry. And she looks at me real strong, and she's like, "Daddy, don't do that. Don't do that. You'll be all right." But yeah, a bunch of feelings that I wouldn't hope on my worst enemy.
So then there was the wait, right?
Right.
So fill us in now. You're getting this. You finally get the news of what possibly could be wrong with Naomi.
Well, actually, initially we didn't get any news. Initially, it was we needed to pretty much save her, you know, from being so sick. So she was immediately triaged to the pediatric intensive care unit. You know, they ran blood cultures, every culture, every possible test you could possibly run, ultrasounds, x-rays, every test they could run on her to determine what the problem was. Initially, I do believe that they instantly thought this is leukemia. So, you know, when we left the pediatrician's office, I already knew who they had called in to see her because the pediatrician had told me who she called. So in the back of my mind, I kind of had an idea what they were thinking. Obviously, I didn't say anything because it's not on paper and you don't want that as a parent. And so it was just really a rush to get her levels to a place where she was gonna be at least okay or stable. And so they transfused her a bunch. Probably, she had how many blood transfusions? She was in the PICU for a week. She had 5 blood transfusions, 4 platelets. One of the pediatric intensive care unit nurses had told us that was the most she had ever transfused anyone at one time. And then that Monday, she was scheduled for the first bone marrow biopsy. And so that was the first time where they discussed with us, this is what we think she may have, but we won't know for sure until those results come back.
Is a bone marrow biopsy, is that painful?
They
Talk
numb it.
louder.
Sorry, they numb it, like they numb the area. So it's in your, what's this called?
Your
Your hip bone. So basically they put numbing cream on the bone and then they give you anesthetic. So you don't feel anything because you're asleep.
They put her to sleep.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So go ahead, I'm sorry.
So the 28th was the day of the first bone marrow biopsy. She was discharged on the
28th I was discharged.
Okay, sorry. The 28th she was discharged.
25th was
The
the biopsy.
25th was the day of the first bone marrow biopsy. And they basically just sent us home with follow-up instructions. You know, she was going to have to be doing outpatient transfusions until they felt like she was okay to, be more sporadic or go longer without them. And then on February the 1st was the day that we got the diagnosis that she had aplastic anemia, which is basically a bone marrow failure where her bone marrow does not produce enough red blood cells, platelets, and white blood cells and the red blood cells, deliver oxygen to the organs of the body, and so that was very concerning. Can be a fatal condition, and the only treatment is a bone marrow biopsy, or a bone marrow transplant, I'm sorry. So, we continued on our...
Have they seen this in many kids her age?
So, no. From what we've been told in the research that I have done, severe plastic anemia in someone her age is very rare. I mean, it's a very rare diagnosis to have anyway, like 1 in a million rare. And so for her to be diagnosed at her age was kind of like, wow, that's not something that's not often seen. It's usually diagnosed in someone between the ages of 30 and I'd say 50, usually the older ages. And so, okay, first diagnosis, what do we do now? So she had been getting transfusions twice a week from the beginning, red blood cells and platelets. And then our local hospital was not equipped to treat somebody with the type of condition that Naomi has. And so we were referred to University of Miami, they have an adult transplant team there. And so Naomi was scheduled for her second bone marrow biopsy on February the 10th. And so we went there, consulted with the transplant team, and they did her bone marrow biopsy, and they also did some genetic testing. And that, let me go back, I'm sorry. So the first bone marrow biopsy came back with a clone of another bone marrow failure, which is called paroxysmal nocturnal hemoglobinuria.
Say that again, slow.
Paroxysmal nocturnal hemoglobinuria. And
So
that is
they just abbreviate.
PNH.
Okay.
Yeah. And that is another bone marrow failure that
It's very rare,
yeah,
too.
is another like 1 in a million
Right.
chances of getting. And usually both of those bone marrow failures are a result of like a chemotherapy or some type of sickness that alters the way that the bone marrow works.
Is
And so
this
it's pretty-
genetic?
Well, there's additional stuff to go along with the story. So after the second bone marrow biopsy, we found out that Naomi also had an abnormal gene mutation. And so now we've got 2 bone marrow failures and an abnormal gene mutation that we needed to figure out, how do we go about treating her the best way that they can, like what options do we have? So we initially were told that there were 2 options, immunosuppression therapy. They would basically shut her immune system down and give her bone marrow the chance to jumpstart itself and maybe reproduce those cells like normal. And that was initially, like when we first got her diagnosis, it was going to be either immunosuppression therapy or a bone marrow transplant. At the second, when we got the second set of results back, we were then told, well, immunosuppression is now off the table because now we have this other situation that we have to deal with or look into. Basically, they wanted her treatment to be the best, or where she can get the best outcome. Then we went for the third bone marrow biopsy on March the 25th, 4th or 5th. And at that one, they decided that there was a need for a punch biopsy at the same time because they needed to determine whether this abnormal gene mutation was in all of her skin cells, meaning that was something that developed when she was developing in the womb, or whether it was just something that happened from when she got sick or something, and maybe that was why. And so it was determined that in fact is a genetic gene mutation passed down through either Mark or myself.
That's hard to hear.
It
right?
is. It really
right,
is.
hard to hear.
It is hard to hear because, what parent wants to hear that?
Right.
And so now we've got 2 bone marrow failures and 2 abnormal genetic, abnormal gene
But
gene
she's always been
mutations.
healthy, basically, right?
Yes.
Had to have a
We know
cold
Nyla's
for
had
3
so many
years.
things.
Yes.
But Naomi's always been
Always
healthy.
been the healthy one, right. So at the second one, it was found that she has an abnormal gene mutation that's called MPL, and so the
MPL is the first one. The X one is the second.
yeah, I know. MPL. And then, so.
See, Naomi wants to be in the medical field too, so she's
I am.
filling her mother in all the time.
I love it, I absolutely love it. And then, so now we've got two bone marrow failures and an abnormal gene mutation. Now, what we did not know, which is something that we found out a couple of weeks ago, was that there were actually 2 abnormal gene mutations found in the bone marrow biopsies. And then yesterday we found out that they do believe, now obviously, you know, we'll take it a day at a time, but we had a meeting with geneticists yesterday. They do believe that Naomi actually has 3 abnormal gene mutations, and that one of them might have been missed during sequencing. And so there's, you know, some more testing to go out for that, but we're gonna take it a day at a time.
Okay, so when I read some of the things, it says that she only has a 15% chance to find a donor?
So the 15% chance of finding a donor is the statistics that Be the Match has, or that's from their, you know, being able to help people
And
find
that's
a
because
match.
she's a mixed race.
That is because she's mixed. Now, our transplant team says she has less than 1% of finding a match.
Oh, no, we're not going to believe that one.
Of course not.
So let's get to one thing. Kelly is Puerto Rican,
Right.
and Mark is, well, you're
Ashkenazi Jewish.
What?
Ashkenazi Jewish.
Say that again. Can you say it, Mark?
I just found out.
Are you full-blooded Jewish?
No, my father's Jewish. My mother is
So
Russian.
Okay.
Russian, German.
Okay. So
Right.
they're looking at more the Jewish side and the
Well,
Puerto Rican
they're
side.
testing us both because of the you know, there's 2 different gene mutations, and so, you know, they just need to verify who that gene mutation came from. And so, you know, there are a couple of options. You know, we're doing this donor drive. I'm believing we're gonna find our match. I mean, there's just gonna be no other, I'm accepting nothing less, but, you know, there is another option that is not, they haven't decided what they're gonna do yet. You know, if we don't find a match for Naomi, then they will try what's called a haploidentical match, or a haploidentical transplant, which would be one of us being her donors. Now, ideally, it would be the male, because they, I don't know, there's something medically where the best survival rate or the best outcome is usually a male donor. Now,
that's interesting.
something that I didn't realize in the past was, you know, they wouldn't test me, they wouldn't do any HLA typing for me, and their reasoning behind it is because, you know, I've been pregnant several times, I've had several miscarriages, and every miscarriage changes a mom's DNA. And so they, the
That's
chances,
interesting.
yeah, so the chances of me being a match for Naomi is like something on, you know, like negative
Wow.
0.001. Yeah, so, you know, the more pregnancies you have, the more your DNA changes.
Okay, we're gonna stall for a moment on the medical stuff. I'm gonna deal with what you're going through as a family, okay? I know that, I'm gonna start with you as parents. How are you dealing with it right now? I'll start with you, Mark. How are you handling the news that you're getting on your daughter day to day?
I'm very optimistic. I mean, it is a day by day, hour by hour process. You know, it hits me hard, and really, at first, it really made me struggle at work. You know, because just nothing else seemed important.
Right. Isn't that so true?
But very optimistic. I know we're going to be okay. You know, and you know, the 3rd genetic.
Abnormal gene mutation.
Yes. You know, just it's just more on the plate. You know, we already have a full plate, so
Just more there.
yeah, if there has to be room for more, let's do it. But let's do it all together and knock it all out. And you know, in a show in the near future, you know, we'll be back with a success story and a
Amen.
good
That's what
testimony
we'll
with
be
it.
for. So Kelly, I know you're you probably have had emotions up and down and what's been going on. How do you find yourself being able to, as a mom, to face this every day?
Well, you know, I learned a long time ago that if I consume myself with things that I cannot change, I won't be useful. And so, you know, I do believe that we learn from the things that we go through, and my head is the size of a grape. There's no room for me to just sit and wallow in
No
this
options.
Yeah, there's I mean, we know what medicine says. Okay, that's what medicine says. But if I walk around mopey and upset and completely overtaken by fear and emotion, how is that teaching my child about faith? How is that teaching Naomi that even though things look bad and things look absolutely terrible, there's still light at the end of the tunnel? You know, there's still something that you can take out of something pretty terrible and find a blessing somewhere in there.
Amen.
You know, and so I can't consume myself with fear.
Which gives her encouragement, which
Right.
helps build her faith.
Right. You know, I really feel like as parents, we have to learn to not always live in our emotion. You know, not always just, I mean, I'm not saying to be fake about what it is, because Naomi knows the absolute truth about her condition.
Yeah, we're gonna
She
talk to her
knows everything. We haven't kept anything a secret, because I feel like honesty in a home it helps everyone deal with their emotions as well.
And everybody has to deal.
Right.
And that's what we see when there's somebody that's ill. You know, I know when we got the news about my sister, our whole family changed because everything revolved around that diagnosis. So I'm gonna go right to you for a moment, Naomi. Okay. Now, first of all, we're always saying about Naomi. Naomi is a young lady. Of course, I can remember when her mom was pregnant with her. I can remember you sitting in church I can always see you sitting in about the third row back. You were a chunky little thing, one of the most beautiful children I've ever laid eyes on. And you were always growling at all of us. Okay, if we went to talk to you, remember that? She would just growl.
Well, opportunity hater.
Yeah,
She
right.
hated everyone equally.
And who would ever think that you would grow up? I mean, I say this about you all the time. You are beautiful on the outside, Naomi, and you are just as beautiful on the inside. I think you're an incredibly kind, compassionate person. I've watched you through the years, the way you interact with other kids. I've seen you see the underdog and kind of go over there and put your arm around them and saying, come on, trying to make people feel included. You're very gifted in that area. I know you're a very smart girl. I know that you have so many honors in school. I know you have goals to be in the medical field also. And I know you just won some big award, right?
A recognition invitation.
Yeah, and you couldn't go. So say what it is again.
It's the Congress of Future Medical Leaders.
Okay. So and she wasn't able to attend that ceremony, but you said that you'd be really honest, and I could ask you the hard questions. Okay. So when you heard the news about that you possibly have a fatal condition, all right, what was your initial reaction?
It was kind of shocking at first. Like, it didn't.
Talk up a little bit.
I'm sorry. It was kind of shocking at first. Like, it didn't actually register until like a few weeks later when we were constantly going outpatient to the hospital and getting blood transfusions and stuff. It was very scary. It's terrifying, actually, because like you feel sympathy for everybody else and empathy for everybody else that's going through the same thing. But then once it happens to you, everything changes and your mindset changes completely.
Okay. So what's your biggest fear right now?
Death, but not in the way that most people think. People think like, oh, you're scared, like obviously would be scared of dying because you don't know what happens after. I'm kind of a little bit scared of dying, but not really, because worst case scenario, I get to see the Lord and everybody. But I'm scared for my family if something happens. I'm scared for...
She's more worried about the reaction to her family.
I'm terrified for Nyla because...
I know you're very close to your sister. We're going to talk to her too. I'm sure there are nights that you must just sit there and talk to God about this whole situation. Like, why? Or do you feel like you're gaining strength from the relationship with the Lord?
I'm gaining strength a lot in different perspectives that I never saw before. It's not really, I don't question why really too much, because I understand that he picks certain people to go through battles because he knows that they can take it. So I know that I can take this battle because he chose me. So I understand that. So it's not really more of a question of why, it's just I go to the Lord for support.
Okay, amen. It's interesting for you to hear you say this as a 14-year-old, because most 14-year-olds, if they found out, I'm possibly not going to make it, Of course, we've been praying. We're all wearing our Naomi Strong bracelets, and we're all believing for the miracle for you. And I think it probably helps you a little bit that so many people, are praying for you, or have a heart to see this miracle happen in your life. Does that give you strength?
It does.
Okay. What's been the hardest thing in this year? Because I know you're a really good student. So what's been the hardest thing? I heard that they wanted to lessen your load and you wouldn't let them.
Oh.
See, I hear everything.
We went to Miami and one of the child life specialists came in the room. I just woke up from anesthesia not even 15 minutes ago. And she came into the room because this was my second bone marrow biopsy. She came into the room and she was basically explaining what the homebound program is for people who are going through stuff at the hospitals. And she told me that I was not going to be able to do my schoolwork and that I'm going to have to do the homebound program. She filled everything out for us and basically was trying to force us into it because I wasn't going to be able to do it and that I'm weaker than I think I am.
Oh, wow. And you just proved that different, right?
Yeah, I just ended my third quarter with straight A's.
See, that's determination. You didn't let defeat. You see, that's what I see in you. You haven't let defeat overtake. It's almost like, I'm going to keep moving in my goals and my dreams. And I think that's an absolutely mature, incredible thing that you're doing. I don't think a lot of kids, I think they would choose to have the lesser stress. And it just really shows how strong you are, Naomi. And I loved how you said what hurts you is how is this affecting your little sister and your mom and dad. So, Nyla, I want to talk to you for a minute. Is that your friend?
Yes.
Okay, I'm going to tell you something about Nyla now. Naomi is the more serious child and has these, she's more quiet, but Nyla is a star, okay? She loves to be on stage. She just thinks there's anything she can't do when it comes to performing, right? So who's your little friend with you?
Her name is Evie and she's a Pokemon.
She's a Pokemon. She goes with you?
Yeah, she goes with me everywhere and I sleep with her.
Okay, so she's your buddy right now to get you through things?
Yeah.
Okay, you gotta talk up, all right? All right, Nyla, what's been the hardest thing for you hearing that your sister is sick?
Probably being alone a lot because I used to stay home and play with Naomi. It's just different because everything changed a lot and I don't know now.
So you don't know? Is it hard for you to be at home sometimes?
Yeah.
Do you feel like it's so hard because, I've been in your shoes to be the kid that's well, okay? Do you feel left out sometimes?
Yeah, I feel left out, and I feel it's not fair though. Why her, why does she have to go through all of this?
So you're hurting for her, and then you feel a little bit bad for yourself, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So that's really, really hard. And you know what used to bother me sometimes? My sister would be in the hospital all the time when she was younger, and people would bring her gifts. And I used to think, she gets all these gifts. I was a little jealous. Do you ever feel that way sometimes?
Yeah, but whenever I feel that way, Mommy lets me talk to her, and she lets me get all my tears out.
So do you cry a lot?
Yeah.
Okay. Are you able to be with your friends very much right now?
No, not a lot.
Because everybody's got to be protected, right?
Yeah, the only times I see my friends is when it's just a coincidence. Like if we're somewhere, like let's say a restaurant, and I see my friends.
Okay.
I
So
say
you
like
guys
hi
try to go out
today.
sometime?
Yeah. Like last time I went to an ice cream shop and I saw my friend.
Okay.
But all I could really do is like say hi.
Right, because you can't interact right now.
Yeah.
Did you go back to school?
No.
So you can't.
I was planning to go back on February 2nd, but that was the exact week we found out that Naomi had her disease.
Okay, so I know you're a social butterfly, so it's been kind of hard for you because you've had to be kind of isolated. And I'm sure, Naomi, that's hard for you to hear what your little sister's going through because I know you protect her a lot. And so, you know, it's so hard to be in each one of your shoes. I know even as a dad, you know, Mark and Kelly, what are the biggest challenges that you're facing right now as parents? What are the complications that you're facing? You want to talk first?
As far as complications, I think that for me the biggest thing is everything just moves so slow.
Yeah.
It's just a slow wheel, and it really changed. You know, I think that all four of us have changed so much. You know, in the last, you know, since January, February. Even
First, you start with COVID that changed everything, right? And then this.
Yeah, and at first, you know, like I said, it's heartbreaking. But really, just even, you know, watching Kelly, learning that, you know, it's don't let it be heartbreaking. You know, there's other people have problems. Everybody's going through something. You know, don't walk around with your problems on your shoulder. You know, make the best of
So
it.
she's your cheerleader,
Yeah,
Kelly.
yeah, definitely. Yeah, all three girls in my life are my cheerleaders here. You know, and I've learned also that if we have a down moment, you know, for what she's going through, we have to tighten up and be her biggest cheerleaders because she
Okay.
can't see us, you know, having a mopey day and, you know,
Right,
'cause
I can hear that.
that's what we have. And yeah, there's way bigger problems in the world I learned than, you know, somebody having a bad haircut or, you know,
Yeah,
certain
you
things.
really begin to prioritize, you know, pain and what really matters, right?
What's important, absolutely.
What's important in life. I know that another challenge that you as parents have is what are your options for Naomi in this hour? I know that you have told me about the situation with the health insurance. So explain how this isn't fair sometimes when, I'm sorry, because of some things that are going on in our country right now and people can get free medical.
So I'm employed by HCA and we have great insurance. But there are very few people or very few facilities that are equipped to treat Naomi with the level of condition that she has. Her condition is very complicated. Her case is very complicated. And so, you know, we were referred to Miami that has a wonderful transplant team, but they don't participate with my insurance. So
There's another hit.
yeah, so you know, it gets frustrating because, you know, they're doing their best to, you know, make sure they reach out to our insurance companies, and, you know, they have been providing gap approvals for certain situations that we're in. But it becomes very frustrating because you're like, you know, well, I have this insurance, you know, I don't want to I'm having to do all the footwork to make sure that, okay, we have a bone marrow biopsy scheduled this day. Now I have to call, you know, authorizations department, make sure they initiated an authorization. I have to call the insurance company, make sure they know, you know, why we're going out of network, you know, from our facility. And so it gets a pretty frustrating because you have to keep on top of it. You know, when her second bone marrow biopsy was scheduled, it was scheduled for another day that had to be canceled because there wasn't an approval for it. And so it gets really frustrating knowing that, you know, your kid needs a life-saving treatment, and there are very few capable of providing that.
You know, we were talking, Kelly, that, you know, even if you got to the place you could go to St. Jude, which is free, and they give you the housing there. But that created a complication. So share what that complication.
Well, in reality, St. Jude is technically not free. Actually, one of the transplant physicians that is on our transplant team right now used to work at St. Jude. And so if you have insurance, you don't really qualify. They give priority to those that are out of country or that are flying in for treatment, or those that are in that area. And so that's that particular situation. And they also have to be actively doing a research study on your child's condition for you to even be, considered as a patient.
That's not what the advertisements tell you.
Right. The other situation is that, we're still in the midst of COVID. Mark would have to stay here working. But if I went to St. Jude with Nyla wouldn't be able to come to the hospital appointments. She wouldn't, because it's not possible.
And you have to work because you
and
have the
I
insurance.
have to work because everybody's insured under my employer.
And so if you didn't have insurance, they'd probably take you. But after you get out of there,
Right.
you need that insurance.
Well, that's
See
what
how
a lot
complicated
of people don't understand. I'm a bigger picture kind of thinker, and this is a life condition that, unless she gets a bone marrow transplant, this is something that will consistently have to be monitored. And so if I were to lose coverage at any moment, it would be difficult to find her insurance if pre-existing conditions become a thing. And she'll never be able to get insurance again.
Well, let's say you don't get a bone marrow, and they're saying the slight chance, and we're going to talk a little bit about that.
Mm-hmm.
What's the life expectancy for her?
So the transplant team says the best possible outcome for those with her condition are those kids or those individuals that receive transplant within the 6-month mark of diagnosis. That success rate is 93%. Naomi,
Boy, this is getting close.
July the 1st would be her 6-month mark.
Okay.
And then after that, after the year, it reduces to 60% success rate. And then the longer you go, it's a pretty grim window, so to speak. Basically, it would be dependent upon her body and how her body reacts to the transfusions that she gets every week. Once her body becomes transfusion dependent and they no longer work, it's a downhill slope from there.
Have they given you a time frame, like what's the people who haven't been able to get a transplant?
They haven't really, they try to stay pretty optimistic, but they're very much pushing for this 6-month mark.
Okay, so we need a miracle now. I know it's been plastered all over Facebook, and I also want you to know that I know that you have a drive coming from the elementary school. Yes. I explain how that's going to be, and I want you to know that Green Acres Christian Academy heard, and they plastered it all over. So it's, everybody's rooting for you. We're rooting for the victory, and I know, tell us a little bit how this works, all the ways people can go. I know you have to be between the ages of 18 and 44.
Yes. So about a month ago, the age was 18 to 61, but Be The Match did some research and realized that it was really less than 1% or 1% of the people over the age of 44 that were receiving transplants, and those that were receiving them of older ages were having more complications. So they reduced the age limit from 18 to 44 probably 2 to 3 weeks ago. But basically the school that's going to be hosting our drive is Naomi's old elementary school and Naomi's old elementary school and Nyla's current elementary school. They're absolutely incredible. They have provided us with so much support. When they heard that Naomi was sick, they called us immediately and just offered anything and everything. They were at our beck and call. And so we were notified through the Be The Match that they searched the registry and did not find her a match. There's 22 million people registered right now. And only about 30% of those people are ethnically diverse. And so
would it be best, like when you're talking to everybody, if somebody is Puerto Rican and Jewish, or Puerto Rican and Caucasian, you're really crying out to them, please, would you try to be a match?
I mean, we're crying out to everybody
Right.
because honestly, I hate to be in the position that I'm in. You know, especially as a medical professional, you have no power over what happens. You have no control over how they treat your daughter, how, you know, to get the ball moving to get her treatment. And I'm a very proactive individual, especially when it comes to the kids. And so we're asking everybody, ethnically diverse or not, because no parent should have to beg for a life-changing treatment.
Right.
And so my goal, obviously I'm pretty competitive. We want people to register under Naomi's code. We want people to get, you know, if you can't come to the drive on June the 6th, at least register through her hyperlink and register that way, get the kit sent to your home. But we're in contact with, there's only one South Florida representative for Be the Match, and his name is Carlos Wesley. He's been absolutely incredible. He was the one who contacted us and said, hey, you know what, we're gonna do as many drives as we can. We're gonna find Naomi a match. And my competitive goal is to have the biggest donor drive there has ever been for Be the Match, so that how incredible would it be for us to not only find Naomi's match, which I'm 100% believing that we are, because I'm not accepting anything less, but to find other matches for
so
other
they're in the
people.
bank now.
They're in a bank, yes.
Okay,
it's
so
the national registry. So it's not only searching for Naomi, it's searching for anybody that's on the donor.
If someone donates their bone marrow, can you like reassure them that they're going to be okay?
Yeah, so there are two different types of bone marrow. The type, and really it's kind of funny because people have this stigma about bone marrow biopsies or bone marrow transplants, and it's pretty underwhelming, to be honest. Naomi's gonna be receiving a blood transfusion. That's the bone marrow. I mean, you sit, I mean, most people get collected when their bone marrow gets collected, they sit in a room and get their blood drawn.
That easy?
For a couple hours.
The one for me is from the hip though.
Well, that's how we're gonna be tested. And that's how she's gonna receive it. She will.
So they're sitting there, it's just like a blood.
Yeah.
So they're not going in a hospital
If you've
laying down
ever-
and cut them open or anything.
Huh?
They don't put a gown on you.
Yeah,
Just
no,
in and
it's
out.
just as if you've ever donated blood to the One Blood Blood Bank,
Wow.
it's the process is similar. Yeah.
Wow, I thought they were going to be in the operating room and do something like needles and.
It's very, that is another option that they do. But when we discuss with the transplant team how her bone marrow will be, it's blood. She's just as if she was going to be getting another blood transfusion.
If she got this transfusion, then does she have to go on the rejection medicines like other transplants?
So she's going to be on other medication, that kind of help her body engraft, that stem cells. Now, the day that she gets her transplant will be considered day plus 0. And so basically it will be her reborn day. It'll be just as if she was born all over again. Oh, wow. And the goal for any transplantation or transplant patient is to reach day plus 100. And then you're kind of almost out of the woods, not 100%, but they follow up closely. And once you're fully engrafted, you're good to go.
Wow. So, it's interesting because, my sister had her pancreas transplant. She actually took on some of the attributes of the person who donated. Her hair went curly. She found out that the girl had curly hair. She had, she all of a sudden liked certain foods, and then the mom said, oh my gosh, that her daughter, loved those same foods. It was crazy. Then it went normal again.
Like if Naomi receives a donor and the donor is male, her DNA after she 100% engrafts will be that of a male.
Wait a minute.
That's
Now
what I
what's
said.
that's going on?
That's
She
what I
won't be a
said.
transgender or.
No, it's just it'll be that of whoever donates.
She
to
punched
her.
me and she hit me hard.
my God.
Son.
Don't say that.
That's funny.
No, because she'll never cut that beautiful hair.
Oh my God.
I know that was one of your biggest fears is if you had to do the chemo.
With the transplant, you have to do the chemo still.
Oh, you have to?
Yeah,
you'll
she'll have to do
So
chemo.
with the plus zero, the
Talk
zero
louder.
plus, sorry, with the 0+, on the transplant day, you actually get admitted to the hospital like 15, 20 days before that, I think. And those days are negatives. So let's say hypothetically July 15th was my bone marrow transplant, I would go in at like June 25th. And so then it would be -20, and then June 26th would be -19. So by negative day 10, I would have to start chemo for a little bit so that my
Are you
immune
afraid of that? Were you going to say something more?
I was just gonna elaborate. When it goes all the way down to 0, and then day 0, like Kelly was talking about, it starts, the bone marrow transplant, and then 1 through 100.
Okay.
Hopefully after day 100, she's in the clear.
So if you have to have this chemo, do they tell you you're going to lose your hair?
Yes, they said
I know that's one of your biggest fears, right?
kinda. They
She's
said
getting better.
when we had our second bone marrow biopsy and they were explaining it, they were like, you're gonna lose your hair. Everybody came in, they're like, you're gonna lose your hair, you're gonna lose your hair. And at first I was like kind of terrified because like my hair is like
Your life?
my biggest
Yeah.
attire. And so I was kind of nervous about that, but then I learned about everything else, and that's kind of the least of my worries now, because now there's such things as complications that your hair is the least of our worries. Like
Yeah.
you're gonna have like mouth sores to the point where
Right.
sometimes some people can't eat, and so they have to get NG tubes through their
Yeah.
nose into their stomach. Or there's I forgot, like you get nausea, like extreme nausea, and I hate nausea so much.
Right.
And like stomach pain and all this stuff. So that's kind of my biggest concern, of whether I'm gonna be well enough to not like sleep all day.
Okay. Well, we're going to believe you're going to get through it all. We're going to really believe in this, that you're going to find a match. You know what? God created somebody out there to be your match, and I'm going to believe it's a girl.
Me too.
That's pretty funny. I'll take whoever.
Yeah, okay.
I'll take whoever.
Can you explain how people do this, how they text? And I think that Pastor Chris was going to have it up, right?
Yes,
You have it all up?
they're putting it up on there now.
Okay, so explain the different ways, and they'll put it up on the screen for the people.
So there are 3 different ways you can sign up. There is a hyperlink that is on the Undertaking a Plastic Anemia PNH featuring Naomi page,
Talk
or
slow
my.
loud.
I'm sorry. Undertaking a Plastic Anemia and PNH featuring Naomi. It's on her page. It is also you can click on the hyperlink that's there. You can also text Hope for Naomi to the code that is on the flyer, or you can go to bethematch.com/Hope for Naomi, and it will take you right to the application, or you can scan the specific QR code with your phone or smart device, and it'll take you to the application. You just fill it out, and it'll send something directly to your home.
They send a little kit to your home.
They send a kit to
right?
your home. It is a mouth swab. You swab your mouth, put it in the envelope. You have a specific code for your swab. You activate that code, and then you mail off the envelope. You'll get a confirmation that Beat and Match has received your swab, and you confirm that. And then if you are a match to anyone, Naomi or anyone else, you will get a notification letting you know that you have matched someone.
Now, this drive that they're doing on June 5th at Royal Palm Elementary School, I heard you, did I read someplace it's a drive-through?
It is a drive-through. We're staying COVID safe for Naomi since she's going to be there.
Okay.
So it is going to be through stations. People are going to drive in. You are going to scan the code that we have. We're going to have tablets and stuff, or you can use your smartphone. That's the first station. You're going to go to the second station, receive the kits. You're going to swab your mouth. You're going to close the envelope. Everything you're going to be doing yourself so that there's no interaction with other people. And then the third station, you'll be handing off your envelope, and you'll go.
Can you tell us where the school is?
So Royal Palm Beach Elementary is located off of Royal Palm Beach and Okeechobee, just west of Crestwood on the right-hand side. I don't 100% know the address, but it is listed on our
Google
Facebook page,
Royal
or you can
Palm.
go Google it, Royal Palm Beach Elementary School.
That's awesome. Well, it's been a very complicated season for you all. We've all been praying here at Victory because you mean, not just you, Naomi, but Kelly, Mark, and Nyla, you mean so much to us. And I know we haven't been able to, between COVID and everything, you happen to stay distant. I just want you to know how much you're loved here. And we're just believing with all our heart. We're praying for that match. We're going to believe that you're going to come back and give us this great testimony. You're going to be well, and even if you come back with a little bob, you know, one thing about you, Naomi, you're so cute. Doesn't matter if you have hair or no hair. You know, you're going to be really, really cute. You know, it's funny. I used to always say to people who have had long hair their whole life, I used to always say this from the time I was young. You need to cut your hair once real short. You'll find out who you really are.
In the beginning of March of 2020, I chopped it up like up to
Oh,
here.
I'm talking about here.
I have like a round face, so that's like, it's questionable.
Okay, I got it. But so many people, your hair becomes your security blanket, especially if you have beautiful hair. And you do have beautiful hair. But you know what? It'll grow long again. You have something you want to say, Nyla?
Once, when I don't remember when, but when I was a bit littler, I cut my own bangs.
Oh yeah, I remember that.
And Mom called me, so I went to her, and then when she was looking at me, each bang came like an order just came down, and then Mom had to fix it. And then when I was in kindergarten, Mom cut my hair to at least this.
I remember. It was so cute. It was.
Dora.
But you don't have a round face like them. Well, I want to tell you something. Before I left home today, my husband said, I want Naomi and Nyla to go out and have some fun. Okay? So, I just dropped my mic. This is from Mr. Mike, okay? You go have some fun, do something you want to do, and that'll be a good thing, right?
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Is my mic gonna drop? Do you have any last minute things you want to share with everyone that you'd want them to know?
I just want people to know that it's okay to go through pain. Like, it's okay to
Talk louder.
It's okay to struggle. It's okay to face uncertainty. It makes you stronger. You know, we don't know what the end outcome is. We know what the possibilities are. And, you know, we're slowly but surely coming to grips with being okay with either. Even though, you know, I just know in my gut that we're going to find Naomi a match. But I just want people to stay strong. You know, you don't really know your strength until you're faced with something that you have to be strong for.
Amen. How about you, Mark?
There's no real way, I don't know how to act through most of this. And nobody knows there's no, and people could try to tell you and give you advice, but it's something that a lot of people haven't been through. I mean, many people have, but for myself, I have no idea. One of the things that I love watching through this is the woman that she's becoming.
Aww.
Because, you know, she's already so smart before this, you know, it would blow my mind away with the things that come out of her mouth. But now, watching the woman, you know, 10, 20 years down the road that she's becoming, it is amazing. I'm so excited to see.
So you're seeing how, you know, all things work together for good to those who are in Christ Jesus, according to his purpose. And you know what? We're going to believe for this miracle, and that when you get in the medical field, you're going to understand how people feel. You know, it's one thing to get educated, and that's wonderful, but it's different when you've had life experience. And you,
Like,
probably do. You know what, though? I can remember your mom, when she was about, when did you start working for Dr. Vicente? You were like 16?
16 years old.
And I always remember him even telling me, because he's still Ryan's doctor, that, you know, he like knew you had so much potential, and he just took you under his wing. He said he taught you everything he could possibly teach you.
Yeah.
Because you're like a little sib. Or I used to say, in my group on, was it Wednesday nights? I don't remember. In our small group, Hoppy was a real medical doctor, and she would come in and ask you questions.
Yeah.
And I always go, Hoppy, you're the doctor. Yeah, he goes, but she really knows a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
And yesterday when I told you I had laryngitis, you said they put you on steroids. And I'm like, yes, Dr. Kelly. So, You've got good genes in there. You've passed them down. And then I know, because you're a singer, you've passed those genes down to Nyla. So she's going to be the entertainer of the family.
I mean, Naomi likes to entertain too.
Oh, she does?
Okay,
Well, maybe I'll
let's
hear
not
you
get
do a
ahead of
duet.
ourselves.
What?
Let's not get ahead of ourselves.
Okay.
They're fun.
Well, we'll do a whole family thing. Mark, you'll be the audience because you don't sing. Right?
He'll be the
Yeah,
back.
we
No,
know
he'll
you're
be
the
the
leader.
dancer.
Yeah, I don't know why you gave me a microphone tonight.
He's an amazing dancer. You should see his moves.
So you'll do the dance routines behind him?
Oh yeah,
In
I'll
front.
do it right here, right now.
I have a feeling you do a lot of that stuff at home. All right, I think you have a very entertaining household. Well, I appreciate that you came. Please, everybody, either go to Royal Palm Elementary on June 5th if you're between the ages of 18 and 45. Don't be afraid. Don't hesitate. If you can just do it yourself from home, please, we are begging you in this hour to be selfless in this situation. This is our last show for the season, and we'll be back after the summer. We're going to say, can you go back and watch some reruns of Amazing Grace? I have had so many incredible guests, and I've been so pleased that anybody that I felt like was to be on the show, nobody said no. And so it's been very educational for all of us. We've had a lot of laughs on different shows. So I know you haven't watched very many, so when you have nothing else to do, you can go back and watch Amazing Grace. Okay? Don't forget to share this. If we can get this show out to thousands, it gives even more hope for Naomi. That's our thing, our hope for Naomi, all right? So share this. Don't forget the Thursday morning chat, 9 a.m. We ironed out the glitches, so you can be live on with me at 9 o'clock sharp. And can't wait for us to be back with you for our next season of Amazing Grace. Again, thank you, the Schwartz family. You are amazing. Blessings to you. And always remember God's amazing grace.